Hi there. Thank you for joining today's video. We're going to be focusing on Brightspace evaluation and feedback tools, especially accompanied by some relatively new technology like the iPad Pro accompanied by the iPad Pencil. I'm going to go ahead and unlock my device here and jump right into Safari. As soon as I do so, I get brought to my Brightspace landing page. Again, today we're going to be focusing on how we can make assignment submissions, annotations, and overall marking a lot easier for faculty, especially when using Apple products like the iPad Pro. In order for us to talk about evaluation and feedback, I'm going to go ahead and navigate to my quick eval tool. As soon as I do so, I am brought to a nice mobile responsive page that allows me to see all of my different assignment submissions from every single course that I am enrolled in. Okay. This page also allows me to filter my view. I can focus on specific activity types, right? Maybe I want to focus on the first review or the in-class poetry slam first, and then kind of move on to different assessments. I can also filter based on the course, right? So again, having access to submissions from every single course in one area is a huge plus for instructor friends. But we can also filter that view, right? So perhaps I want to just focus on English right now, and maybe in an hour or two, I can switch it up and go into business, allowing me to maybe have a little bit more customization and control to what I'm seeing and marking in the specific view. And last but certainly not least, the date filter allows us to actually filter our view based on things that perhaps have been sitting around for longer than a week rather than something that's been submitted within the last 24 hours. Again, allowing me to have a little bit more control over my specific assignment submissions and how I want to go about doing that. Okay. Why don't we actually go ahead and jump in an assignment and do some annotations together? I'm going to go ahead and search for Janice here. She's one of my favorite students, so I like to kind of pick on her a little bit. But as soon as I search for her name, I get a breakdown of all of her assignment submissions. Right, so super easy for me to see exactly what Janice has been doing and when she's been submitting things for what activity type and from what course. In order for me to view her assignment and actually start grading and providing some feedback, all I have to do is just click on her name and I get brought to a summary of her assignment submission. I can actually preview the document she submitted and also provide that evaluation and feedback that gets tied to my gradebook all within the same area. Okay, so as you can see, I have the title page, which is, got the plan and a nice footer there. I've got a table of contents, which she had to include for the specific style for her assignment submission. And now finally, we have the executive summary. So from here, why don't we go ahead and use some of that awesome functionality that we get with that Apple Pencil. So I'm going to go ahead and just select some of the text here that I would like to maybe provide some feedback on, right? So I'm going to go ahead and highlight this area. Maybe I'll just do the second paragraph here instead. And what I can do here is, again, maybe highlight some text or strike it out or perhaps underline something to really draw attention to that specific part of the assessment, okay? Again, because we are using a stylus, why don't we go ahead and really get that feel of that pen and paper aspect that we kind of have abandoned a little bit in the 21st century. But I'm going to go ahead and select my freehand tool here, and you'll notice that I have a few options, right? I can draw, I can highlight, and I can even use it as an eraser. Again, really translating that functionality from that Apple Pencil into our assessments here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and select the drawing tool. Again, I can even pick certain colors, right? So I'm going to keep red just to kind of have that classic markup experience here. But again, we can really tailor that to different colors. Perhaps red is good, or red is usually bad, or green is good, things of that nature. So why don't we go ahead and just give her an A+ right off the bat. I'm going to go ahead and circle that so she knows it. I can even perhaps, draw attention to specific parts of her graphs, maybe circle certain areas, really allowing her to see maybe what she did wrong, or maybe facilitate some sort of a conversation for her and I to really dive deeper into her assessment here. Okay. So again, freehand tool is awesome. Really being able to use that stylus and Apple Pencil on our iPad here to get that functionality for the freehand approach. Now, of course, we can also use our notes tool as well. So right next to that freehand tool, as you can see on the top right hand side of the screen here, if you could see my hand and my pencil, you'd be able to see that I'm clicking on these different tools. And that second view or that second tool from the left there is actually a note tool, right? So we can actually drop in a note here to perhaps facilitate some of this, right? Like why is this paragraph underlined? What is my instructor trying to get across? Right. So again, we can use that functionality from our Apple Pencil to really just drop in some notes here, right? So I'm just going to be really nice to her and just say, good job. And you can actually see that again, having that iPad integration or Apple Pencil functionality where we can actually just draw in some text and use that freehand approach, and it automatically converts it to text for us. Again, as you could probably notice, my handwriting isn't great. I'm actually practicing that right now, trying to get some nice, a little bit less of a chicken scratch approach here. But it doesn't really matter if my text or my handwritten font isn't super clear. It does kind of translate it for you based on what you put into that nice text format as well. And of course, if we were to go through all of these annotations tools, we'd be able to see, again, the ability to drop in a text box here. Again, so rather than maybe having to add in, freehand approach, we can just go ahead and drop in a nice text box, or be able to draw lines a little bit less freehand, a little bit more structured for some of us who may be a little bit less creatively inclined. Of course, there are things like arrows and rectangles that we can drop in here as well. So again, a great tool, especially when combined with a stylus. We can really go a little bit further, and maybe as an instructor, as I'm kind of winding down for the evening and maybe watching a little bit of TV, I can just have my tablet in front of me and go through my different assignment submissions and start really just ticking off that part of it as well. So now that we've provided some annotations and feedback in the document, we of course recognize not every submission is going to require this kind of annotation. On the right-hand side here, we have this evaluation and feedback area where we can use, perhaps a rubric to complete some of this assessment. We can automatically type in, a score here. I can just give her 100 out of 100, and that automatically gets, pushed to that student perspective as well, and right into the grade book. I don't have to do all of this and then kind of go back into my grade book and then save it. It all gets done for me from this screen as well. And again, always having the ability to provide just some standard feedback text in here as well, or even going a little bit further and diving into audio or recorded video here for the feedback as well. Really allowing me, especially, in our current climate with COVID, allowing me to have that connection with my learners, whether it's, through annotations, through some feedback, or audio and video as well. Okay. So now that we're done with our assessments, we can either publish it or save it as a draft. Again, for academic integrity reasons, perhaps we don't want to publish this to, students as we complete it. We can actually save it as a draft and be able to kind of move on to the next assessment. And once all of this has been completed, we can actually release all of those assignments at once, right? So with this specific view from our activities area from Quick Eval, we can actually see what we've evaluated, what's been completed, and also being able to submit or release all this information at once to our learners once we've kind of been done with that assessment type as well. Okay. Amazing. So that brings us to the end of the iPad tutorial on how to kind of jump in and complete our assessments with the use of the iPad Pencil and the iPad integration as well. So again, a great tool allowing us to dive in, get our assessments done with the use of the stylus, and kind of move on to our different assessment types. But if there's any questions, feel free to follow up and we'll talk shortly.